Hi everyone! So it's been a while since I just sat down and talked to the camera, and I'm still not gonna actually just sit down and talk to the camera and do a life update right now. I have more things to post first. I had my spring break videos, which I posted. I went on a long trip to Osaka, Nara, and Kyoto with a friend, and we went to lots of different places and I took lots of video there, and I decided to share them with you. So if you're interested in that, that's something that you can go watch. They're all on this channel. There was another holiday a couple weeks after that called Golden Week. It's the first week in May and it's like 4 holidays back to back to back, and I went to 3 different places. So I went to some caves here, some really pretty lakes, and to one of the top 3 views in Japan. So I want to post those videos first before doing another life update. So keep an eye out for those in the next 2 or 3 weeks. But today I want to do a book update. So a while ago I posted a video talking about my goal to read 25 books in 2013. And at the time I had read 7. Well, I have 7 more to share with you today, so I am at 14. I'm over halfway there already, and I'm really excited because I'm starting to pack things up in my apartment and get ready to move because I'm coming back to the United States at the end of July. So I'm going to be really busy and probably won't have a lot of time to read between now and coming back to the United States. So I'm glad that I'm a little bit ahead of probably the schedule that I need to be on. So I don't really have a particular order. I don't remember the order that I read these books in, but I'm just going to go ahead and get started. So the first one is The Neverending Story by Ende. I actually have never read this before. This was in a bag of books that someone just gave me. It was in the same bag that The Man Who Was Thursday came in that I talked about last time. It's really good. I didn't remember anything about it. I think I saw the movie at one point, but all I remembered was a white dragon at the bookstore, and I really had no idea what it was about. But so I read it, and actually it was very good. I really enjoyed it. I think it was very well written, and it's a really good children's story. I can see why it is so popular and why everyone loved the movie, and now I want to watch the movie and see if it's as good as the book was, because I really enjoyed it. So that's the first one. The second is Castle in the Air by Diana Wynne Jones. This is the sequel to Howl's Moving Castle. I have to admit that it took me a while to get through this book. I got halfway through, and I think there was a time where I was just completely stopped on page 142, and for like 3 or 4 months I just didn't pick it up after page 142 because it felt like the very beginning of this book was really slow. I had such a hard time getting into it, but when I picked it back up I realized that a few pages later, a few pages after I stopped, it actually picked up and became a lot more interesting and really funny, and I really enjoyed it. So I do recommend this book, and I would say that you should persevere with it because it is a little slow at the beginning and is a little difficult to get into, but once you get into it you can see that it's really hilarious, and you see how it connects to Howl's Moving Castle, because at the beginning I was like, why are they calling this a sequel? None of the characters are the same, the setting is not the same, this has nothing to do with that book, it's just by the same author, why are they calling it a sequel? When you get past page 142 you will understand why it's a sequel. The next is another collection of short stories by George, or is it Jorge? I don't know, George or Jorge. It's a Latin American name, so maybe Jorge. Luis Borges? I'm probably butchering that name. I don't know how to pronounce it. A Universal History of Infamy. This was also in the bag of hand-me-down books. I honestly was not very interested in reading this, so I really probably didn't have the best attitude towards reading this book. I didn't have anything else to read. I had finished most of the books that were in my apartment. Like, there was nothing new for me to read except the books that were in this hand-me-down bag. And this one looked the least boring, so I picked it up It's just a collection of short stories about like villains. Like there's one about Billy the Kid, some Asian villains. I don't know. I didn't really enjoy it. It wasn't bad, but it's not really the kind of stories that I enjoy reading. So I read it because I couldn't stand not finishing it, but I'm never going to pick it up again. Part of that probably has to do with the fact that I didn't want to read it in the first place. I definitely think the attitude you have about a book before you even pick it up can affect the way you perceive it while you're reading it. I think that's why a lot of students in high schools don't say they don't like the books they read, because they don't want to be forced to read in the first place. So maybe if I had wanted to read this, I would have had a better impression of it. Maybe if I try it again, I'd like it, but I don't think I particularly want to try it again. So the next is another collection of short stories that I was really excited to read and I did really enjoy. It's Six Tales of the Jazz Age and Other Stories by F. Scott Fitzgerald. I really enjoyed this. I love F. Scott Fitzgerald. The Great Gatsby is one of my favorite books. I love This Side of Paradise. I really like his writing style. It's real easy to read, and he has a way with words that's very nice. It's easy to understand, and it's interesting, and they're just good, well-constructed stories. So I really enjoyed all of the stories in this book. I thought they were really good, and I would definitely recommend it to you. If you have never read F. Scott Fitzgerald before, I would recommend picking up this book of short stories to see if you're going to like him. This, I think, gives a good range of stories and also gives a good feel for his writing style. And I really liked it, so I would definitely recommend this. I couldn't really put it down. Each of the stories was really good, and if you read The Great Gatsby and you liked it but you haven't read much other Fitzgerald, definitely give this a shot. It was really good. The next is, actually this is the most recent book that I've read, Life of Pi by Yann Martel. Obviously this is really big right now because the movie came out really recently. I never saw the movie, but I had heard that the book was really good, and some people saw the movie and they said it was really good, so I was really interested in reading the book. I kind of read a plot synopsis of it and it looked really interesting. I'm one of those people that doesn't really care about spoilers because they don't hamper my enjoyment of a book, so I spoiled the plot before I read the book to see if it was something that I was really going to be interested in, and it did look really interesting. So I borrowed this and I have to return it. I keep forgetting to return it, but it was really, really interesting. His writing style is really easy to read. There was a part in the middle that kind of dragged a little bit, but for the most part, I really enjoyed it. I didn't get bored reading it. I read it in a couple of days. I finished it on the train on one of my trips over the Golden Week break. So I really enjoyed it, and I would definitely recommend it to anyone who is interested in reading it. Yeah, the next book is a big one. This was my spring break read. It is The Casual Vacancy by J.K. Rowling. And I picked this up the day I left on my spring vacation, and I finished it the day I got back. So I was really proud of myself, but also kind of disappointed in myself because it's a really big book, so I wanted to make it last for a while, and I ended up reading it in like 5 days. But I was interested in reading this because I had heard that it was really good, but that it was also a big departure from Harry Potter. I really like the Harry Potter series, and I was interested to see what J.K. Rowling was going to do next. So I picked it up. It is really, really good, but it's definitely not for younger people at all. Any of the other books before this, like, no problem, you can read these. Like, if you're old enough to understand them, you're old enough to read them. This is a children's book. Children can totally read this. Children can read this, but they might not like it. There's nothing dirty in here. Children can also read this. Actually, I'm pretty sure there are probably some high school teachers inflicting this on students and butchering it for those poor kids, because nothing works to kill the love of reading than high school English class. Hey, can I get an amen? Can I get an amen? This is coming from an English teacher. Life of Pi I would also definitely recommend to kids. I do think that kids who grew up with Harry Potter and are adults now can enjoy it, but kids now can't enjoy it. It's definitely not a children's book. But I did like it. The story was interesting. It was well written. It was also kind of interesting for me because it's about like small town life and everybody being in everybody's business and turning everything into this big dramatic thing. And as someone who comes from a small town, I know how that is. And I thought it was really hilarious. So I really liked this. It was fun. It was well written. It was a little scandalous. But if you are easily offended by anything, don't read it. If you don't like cursing, don't read it. If you don't like a little bit of sexual content, don't read it. If you don't like regular fiction, if you're looking for fantasy, magic, wizards, and things, don't read it, because there is nothing magical about this book. But it is very interesting and a good read if you are interested in just reading some good fiction. Some good fiction. Yeah. But this was a Christmas gift that took me a while to read. This was actually a gift from one of my best friends. And we lived together for 3 years. And she thought that I was a very big fan of this comic. And then when she gave it to me, she realized that I had never read this comic before ever. But that's okay, because I do really like comics, and it was nice to read a comic that I'd never read before. It is the Hark of Vagrant book by Beaton. This is a really popular webcomic, and she has a history degree, so she writes a lot about history and things like literature and like Poe and things like that, like the Bronte sisters and Jane Austen, and it's really, really funny. So I enjoyed reading it, actually, and I'm glad that she thought that I was someone who really liked it, because I would not have picked it up if she hadn't given it to me. So I liked it, and if you're a fan of her comics, you should pick it up. If you're not a fan of her comics, but you like kind of dry humor and historical literature humor, I think you'll like it, so definitely check it out. So that is my second book update of 2013. That brings me up to 14 books. I'm super pumped that I'm over halfway through my 25 book challenge, and it's not even June yet, so I'm really excited, and I hope that I can continue this momentum and maybe read more than 25 books in 2013. So I'm going to be putting up my Golden Week videos within the next couple of weeks. Keep an eye out for those if you want to see some of the more local things that Tohoku has to offer. And I will talk to you guys and give you a real life update after that. Bye!